Hello, this is Team 13 presenting our design retrospective for Project 56 Quality Control using Timing Analysis.
Hey, this is Ron Miller, and I'm going to be doing the process portion of our retrospective. Just as a recap on our process, we did 2 week sprints. In semester one, we started off with just a Kanban open task list. That didn't work out so well. We weren't really in a rhythm and staying in a cadence, so we decided to go with 2 week sprints and focus more on a Scrum approach. We were using Asana, which is basically a digital Kanban board or Scrum board, if you will, and that's how we managed our tasks. We would have our 2 weekly meetings on Google Hangout, which was our sprint planning meeting. We had a weekly progress update, which was about halfway through the sprint, and we would actually meet with our sponsor and demo the product and discuss, any additions or changes that they wanted. Outside of that, we use our Slack channel, which is just basically a chat queue where we can pass messages when we're not readily available. And then we managed all of our artifacts using the Google Team Drive and Bitbucket. So, really, in retrospect, overall, everything worked really well. We would have liked to implement daily stand up meetings. I mean, it's much better to be able to stay in contact daily. However, our schedules would never just align to allow for that to happen. The digital Kanban honestly isn't as effective as a physical board, but it worked really well for a distributed team. It kept us on task. We got email prompts whenever something changed or was modified. So again, not as good as the old post-it notes, but it'll do. We would have liked to establish a better rhythm in the first semester. We waited till the second semester to put that in place, but would have liked to have that in the first semester. And that's it for our process. All in all, everything went really well.
Hi, my name is Elijah Haddam, and I'll be doing the Design and Architecture section of Team 13's final semester oral review. A couple of things that worked really well for our team in the design and architecture area was one of them was the module divisions, how we split the project up into the 5 different modules. That changed hardly at all through the entire project, so that worked really well. The database structure for us also worked really well. That needed a few more tweaks, but in large part what we developed at the very beginning of the semester worked flawlessly for us throughout. As far as changes to the original plan that we made, one of them was originally we had planned to have all of the log files stored into a single folder and then pulling from that to parse them. But in the end, because there are 3 different types of log files that could result in different analysis results, we had to split those into separate directories for that purpose. The other area that we changed was the method of machine learning. Initially, we had been leaning toward using Octave since that's what our sponsor had recommended. But upon researching it more, we determined that Octave really was too heavy for what we were trying to do, and so we kept it entirely within decided to keep it entirely within Python. As to improvements that we could have made, definitely what we should have been doing from the very beginning was considering this as a unit. We developed everything as individual modules and really left the last sprint to trying to get everything integrated and so it would run from a single file. If we had this to do again, we should try to have that in mind, have the single file in mind, and be integrating it as we built out those other modules.
Hello, this is Frank Levesque, and I will be talking about the tools we use for this project. For communicating between team members and figuring out what to do, we use Slack. For tracking our sprints with the Agile Scrum methodology, we use Asana.com. For face-to-face webcam, voice, and video conferencing, we use Google Hangouts. To code the Python, we use an IDE called PyCharm, made by a company called JetBrains. It's one of the better IDEs out there. Our code was hosted in a Git repository, both locally and online. Online, we use a service called Bitbucket. And inside the code itself, we used a library called scikit-learn, which has a lot of features for machine learning and math.
Looking back, if we had it to do all over again, we would keep most of our tools. Overall, we were satisfied with the tool selection. Really, the only tool we would change would be Asana. It didn't have very good reporting capabilities, which caused us to go in, manually capture all of the tasks that were completed, and then add those to a burn down chart. And we felt like that should have been included in the tool, and we shouldn't have had to duplicate that effort. Otherwise, everything else worked well, and we would maintain the same list of tools that we had.
Hello, my name is Steve Carniato, and I'm going to speak to you about our teamwork. I think our whole team would agree that throughout the project we worked really well together. There were several reasons for this. The first of which being that we had a diverse mixture of skill sets in our group. Not everybody was great at every aspect of our project, but we had key members that could accomplish each part. Some members were good at project management, some were great at scheduling and keeping our progress moving forward. Others were great at working with databases or maybe just coding in general. Another really important aspect was just our general team dynamic. Everybody really maintained a positive attitude throughout the project. They're willing to pitch in, do their share. Everybody's willing to learn new things or step in for a teammate when there was an issue. And this really contributed to a continued motivation throughout the project. This is especially important when you reach difficult phases, when you have to maybe solve a problem or debug a difficult portion of the code. Our team just really functioned well together. Now, that's not to say we didn't encounter difficulties over the course of this project. Being geographically located across the country from each other, as well as having to contend with other classes, did make communication difficult at points, and it also tended to have us completing tasks later in the week or later in the sprint, leaving a little bit less time for our teammates to check or review the work. And surely we would have liked to establish a more consistent and better rhythm early on in the project, but overall we feel that we were still very successful.